Welcome back for another garden tour of my vegetable garden for July 2021. As you can see, a lot of things are happening in this garden bed. I've been harvesting lots and lots of fruit to the point where I think I have more fruit than I have the capacity to make food with. Let's go ahead and start over at my lettuce bed. As you can see, I finally ripped out all of the bolted lettuce. I was trying to wait for it to go to seed so that hopefully some of them replant themselves. So I spread some fresh compost over because the bed really needed amended. The soil that was there was mushroom soil, but it really needed some fresh nutrients put on top. So that's what this new dirt is. And I'm gonna throw a couple extra seeds in here as well. The kale still looks really good though. You can tell it's been eaten a little bit, but it actually looks pretty healthy, and it's probably about time to harvest some and make some more kale chips. I did find I do have some new lettuce coming up, so that was exciting. The Fresno pepper in this bed is doing well, along with the bell pepper, which I can't even get you. There we go. The Swiss chard has gotten rather large. I still haven't found a good use for it, so I wouldn't mind if someone could give me some better ideas than what I've tried so far. My nasturtium and calendula, the nasturtium looks pretty rough. The flowers, of course, are still beautiful, but I'm wondering if it's too root bound in that little pot and maybe I should transplant it to a different location. So I might play with that. The calendula looks good though. My rogue squash or whatever plant here, I'm thinking that's what it might be. I do see some fruit on it, that or it's a pumpkin. There's one, there's a little fruit. So we'll see what that turns into. My onions in the back are doing really well. My broccoli, it looks like it was starting to form a head, but it looks like it got eaten, so I don't know that I'll actually get any broccoli. It was an experiment anyway. This nasturtium looks a little better. It hasn't gotten as many flowers anymore, and you can tell it burned out a little bit, but other than that, it looks good. And the dandelion greens are still kicking. The chamomile definitely got a little burnt out, probably too hot for it and being in that pot. It did drop a bunch of seeds, and I did see some coming up on the ground behind it, so I'm just gonna let that happen. On my little table, I still have the pansy that I grew from seed going. This is the longest I've ever had pansies go. I mean, it looks kind of poor, but the flowers are still great and it's still attracting many bees. And this is also another pot of portulaca I pulled out of my lettuce bed since it was just randomly growing there. Sorry about that. My phone died because of the heat, so I waited a few hours. I wanted to show my harvest. I have bell peppers, Fresnos, a chili, tons and tons of jalapenos, some cucumbers, and then this lettuce and Swiss chard. That actually looks pretty bad. I might actually have to get rid of that. Moving on to my actual vegetable beds. Let's start up front. So I have my strawberries that are actually doing really well. I've gotten quite a few little garden snacks off of them. I have a couple more coming in. And they've been delicious. My raspberries have grown really well. This one especially has done a really great job. I got a handful of raspberries off of it, but nothing to write home about. My peppers, like you saw in my basket earlier, I harvested so many peppers today, and I have been for the past couple weeks, and there's still a ton on here. There's probably even more I could have harvested today. And the Fresnos still have peppers that are turning red, so I've been grabbing them as they turn red. The cucumber, here's one that'll be ready to pick tomorrow. This trellis actually ended up falling over in a storm the other weekend. So it actually killed off one of the cucumber plants. It ripped it out of the ground. And I think that's why there's a bunch of leaves that look like this, because it actually isn't a living vine anymore. but it's so tangled together, I can't pull it out. But it's still producing a ton of cucumbers. And it's my first plant to actually go so far over the trellis. But it has tons of little babies on it still. I have to figure out more things to do with cucumbers. There's a couple in here too. This is supposed to be a coneflower and bee balm. This doesn't look like bee balm to me, but it's doing stuff, so we'll see. This one's even taller. The cucumbers also started trailing around the ground. I had been, trying to put it in there, but it's so full, I don't think it's worth it. I have learned from this experiment that I do really like growing on a trellis, but obviously need way more space than that. Peppers galore in here. The bell peppers are also doing really great. I've got tons of those coming in. Some I've left that are fully grown. I'm trying to turn them red. I did take the peppers from my garden cart and put them in here. So I have my purple super hots and my fire reds. I'll go over there closer and look at them. My poblano pepper looks amazing. It's got a bunch of poblanos on it. It did suffer in the storm as well. When the trellis fell, it kind of took off a couple branches, but it's still alive and kicking. My Thai red hot peppers here, we did try a couple of them. They're spicy, not as spicy as the fire red, so they've been fun to add to meals. This is my Jubilee tomato. I haven't gotten any fruit yet. I do have some flowers, so I'm excited to see what these tomatoes look like. This is my Hungarian hot wax. I haven't had any more yellow ones, so I'm waiting on that. My Robeson tomato here, it looks a little shorter because it's falling over itself, but it's getting tons and tons of beautiful tomatoes on it. And they're all getting ready to blush. My Roma tomato here looks really good. These are getting ready. There's one that's blushing. Here is a Robeson tomato that is super blushing. I'm excited to pick that guy off. And here is the Fire Red Hot. These have been such an interesting pepper, and they are actually really spicy. They go from purple to like this yellow to this orange, and then red is their final color, and that's when they're ready. So I've been picking a few of those off here and there and throwing them in to things. I have my Scotch bonnet here, the one that broke in a different storm and has come back like nobody's business. And there's also the boat Jolokia pepper. I haven't seen any flowers, any fruit. Well, I guess there's flowers. I do see flowers. I haven't seen any fruit, so we'll see how spicy that one is. Going to this side, this is my striped German. I do have some flowers, and there it is. If one little fruit started. So I haven't got to try this one yet. I'm excited to try it. Again, with my garden cart, I decommissioned it. So I brought my serrano and my chili pepper over here. My chili pepper doesn't look very happy. There's no way I could have really disturbed the roots because the entire thing was completely root bound. And I put new soil here to help it out. So hopefully it kicks back into gear. I was excited to get some chilies here. They have to turn red till they're ready, but they're a decent size. And then my serrano has a couple peppers on it. I'm hoping it gets a little bigger. I pulled out all of the carrots that I had. I did leave a couple that were flowering to help with pollinators because there's one of my little buddies. A little swallowtail butterfly going on. And this flower should soon be ready to harvest seeds from, so I also want to do that. A lot more, like I said, bell peppers. And like I said, there's some on here that are pretty sizable. Just leaving them because I want to see if they turn red. This cucamelon has been really fun. So I have 2 of them on there, and as you can see, they grew like crazy, and I'm starting to get little cucamelon fruits. So they should be about this big, I think. Yeah, about that big. So I can't wait to be able to harvest them, and they grew really, really quickly because they're already halfway up the trellis. Other thing of strawberries. This jalapeno plant has produced the most jalapenos out of any other of my plants. I think I was here for a good 10 minutes picking jalapenos off this one plant today. It was insane. They even had some that turned red because they'd been there that long. This is my grape tomato. Moved him over here. He's got a bunch of little fruits coming in. Just waiting for them to turn red. The Roma on this side has a bunch of fruits, has some blushing, and it actually has one that is red. So I'm gonna pick that tomorrow morning. It should make it really sweet. And this Robeson tomato was definitely, it was really badly affected by the same storm that blew my trellis over. This branch can't stand up anymore. This branch bent over, but it still has fruit on it, so I'm leaving it go. It does have a bunch of fruit. I did end up having to top this one because it was ruined. And I did have to cut a couple branches off here. But it still has a fair amount of tomatoes on it, so I'm hoping I still get a decent output. And as you can see, Caleb has been working on building out my next set of beds. I've been using them at the moment as basically composters. So this is all of the lettuce I pulled out earlier today. I'm hoping that if I put that on the bottom of the beds and then get soil delivered, it'll help add extra fertilizer. And there's a couple bags of soil over here. Walmart was having an end of season sale. I got a couple bags of compost for $1. This peat moss was about $2, and this Pro Mix garden was about $3. I'm leaving the garden mix for seed starting because it says it's good for that, and peat moss should be good for that as well. So I'm not planning on using those, but this is the compost I use to fill in my lettuce bed. So apparently that's something we need to do every year, is check Walmart and buy their cheap soil. Since I decommissioned the cart, I did go ahead and just sit my cherry tomatoes in here. So this is the sugar gloss cherry. It has a couple couple tomatoes coming in. They're kind of oblong-y shaped, kind of like a grape tomato. So I'm curious if it is actually a sugar gloss, because it does kind of look like a grape tomato, but that's what the tag said. And then this is my Sun Gold cherry tomato. It has a couple ripe tomatoes ready to go. Probably pick those tomorrow as well. And it's pretty tall. The only other part I didn't show is my little pollinator area over here with my blueberries. My Rosa Sharon is doing really well. It actually looks like it's about to bloom. The clematis that I got on clearance are doing all right. Same with the roses. Getting a couple new buds. They don't look pretty though. I'm thinking I don't have the right kind of sunlight for them. This blueberry has filled out very nicely. I can't wait for that to get a little bigger. My little zinnia box here is fun, full of flowers. This is a pretty bloom. I like when they're really full like that. And then this blueberry, I got as many blueberries off of this one I could, but it's done for the season. My lamb's ear, which got a little flower. Actually, I never knew lamb's ear got flowers. The cosmos are definitely done for the most part. And then my blanket of thyme. Still smells amazing. Still flowering a little bit here and there. It's got little babies coming up. I'm probably just gonna let this whole thing be one giant ball of thyme since I use it quite a lot. And that is the end of my vegetable garden tour. Thanks for watching.